Alright, guys. Today I want to talk to you about the Thunder. This is another high value ship at tier 10. It requires coal to get, which you can get just by playing the game, but it is a little bit of a longer grind to get this ship. And after doing reviews on Pommern and looking at Slava a little bit, looking at ships that take a while to get, I figured I'd do another one that's a little bit harder to get in the game, and that's the Thunder. Now this ship is basically copying the old Conqueror with 457mm guns, and then tweaking a couple values. That's pretty much what the ship is. And in changing over from just having the one ship in Conqueror with two different gun types to a totally new ship, and they actually took away the 457mm option from the Conqueror, which I was a little disappointed at because it is a different ship still. They actually made a better version, I think. This ship is so good. Now, I was going to say mainly because of the accuracy, but here you're going to see just the problem with battleship dispersion in general. A Moskva turn in full broadside to us, and we hit one shell that overpins. You'll see the dispersion later on that it does even out, that we get some pretty nasty salvos, but sometimes that happens, and you got to deal with that with any battleship, really. But this is a good ship. It's definitely worth grinding for and getting the coal. And the main reason for that is that these guns are good. They're not the dispersion king that they used to be now that the Slava's in the game, but the dispersion on these shells are better than Yamato. And that's Yamato with legendary module. So they're very, very, very nice guns to use. And unlike a ship like the Slava, you're not giving up a lot to get that good dispersion. It's not quite as good as Slava dispersion, but it's pretty good. And where Slava has slow turrets, this ship has very fast turning turrets, which is nice for maneuvering, and you're going to need to do a lot of maneuvering in this ship just to stay alive. The other thing it doesn't give up is reload. Slava has a well over 30-second reload base, and this ship has nearly a 22-second reload with reload mod and all that stuff. It's quite nice. That reload is so good with these guns because they're also 457mm guns, which allows you to pen 30mm of armor, or overmatch 30mm of armor. So the AP on this ship just crushes cruisers. It really does. You get fast reload, great dispersion, and you overmatch them. So for ships like this Henry, I can lock him into staying bow in, because if he turns out here, well, obviously these shells are going to do a lot of damage to a broadside, but at the same time, if they just hit him, they'll deal damage. And the thing about the reload is it allows you to hit a cruiser that angles in to your initial salvo and then tries to turn out. Normally, against a normal battleship like Montana or Yamato, the reload is long enough that they're able to complete a full 180-degree turn and be angled again, except this time angled away from you by the time you shoot again. This faster reload is able to catch them in that turn. I don't really have a clip here that shows that, but it's quite nice to have that faster reload. Along with that fast reload comes really good HE. And you'll see in this game, and even the next game, I don't like to use the HE. I don't like that playstyle. It's not really how I want to play the game. It just feels too easy. I don't know about easy, but you see there, like the Thunder hit me there for nearly 14,000 damage in a fire. It just doesn't feel like I'm playing a challenging game. Basically, I don't know. I want to play a game. I don't want to just sit there mindlessly clicking mouse 1, basically. So that's why I use AP more. And it is good AP. If you're optimally playing this game, you would be switching between AP and HE, so that you're shooting angled targets with HE and broadside targets with AP. Well, except for cruisers, you overmatch. That you definitely still want to shoot AP with, because the AP deals a lot of damage. The alpha on these guns is quite nice. That's another thing that the ship retains compared to a Slava, for example. Slava's alpha is so low, at like 12,100, I believe. And this ship gets a nice high alpha of around 15,000. Not quite, but close. Which when you do Citadel, is pretty nice. Not there, obviously, but later on you'll see the damage that we can rack up just with a couple Citadels. And that's kind of this ship. The guns are why you play this ship. The hull is not great. The only redeeming factor about this hull is that you get the legendary upgrade or unique upgrade of the Conqueror built in. You get better rudder shift built in, and that's really nice because you can take the propulsion module and you feel a little bit like a cruiser then, because you accelerate fast like kind of a heavy cruiser, and your rudder shift is almost that of a heavy cruiser as well at around 12 seconds. And your turning radius is, again, around that heavy cruiser range in that, I think it's in that 800 meters, maybe a little bit bigger than that. But maneuverability-wise, this feels like a heavy cruiser. I mean, it's big, it's just maneuverable for how big it is. But yeah, that's kind of where the upsides end. The ship is covered in 32 millimeters of armor. The Citadel is out of the water just a little bit, so you're pretty vulnerable when going broadside. The other unfortunate part of this ship is, well, when you're facing a Yamato, that 32 millimeters of armor is effectively nothing because the Yamato overmatches you through all of it. So facing a Yamato is a big downside of this ship. You'll see that in the next game, actually. But yeah, I don't play this ship often simply because you have to play it like I'm playing it now. You can't push in really hard with it. You have to really respect the enemy team ships because they can kill you very quickly. You got to play kind of behind and with your team. You know, I say that and I'm one of the closest ships in this game, but since my team is just kind of sitting in spawn, but you can't push in, really. You're taking these longer shots at cruisers if you can, and if not cruisers, then at battleships with your high explosive, most likely. As you can see, that was kind of a weird salvo how wide it went, but the vertical dispersion's pretty nice, and there you have it. A nice hit there on that Hindenburg with a Citadel. The AP on the ship is really good. Here I'm starting to push in, and as you can see, the C cap is contested right now, so we know that Holland is in there still. So I'm kind of banking on the torps coming from that angle, if he's going to torp me. He was behind that island, so assuming we stay spotted when our gun bloom is reset, then we know he could be torping us from that angle. So that's why I'm kind of angling in a little bit, shooting at the Worcester. As you can see, we do end up staying spotted. So that DD is out and able to hit CS in C-cap. Now, the torps probably would get here already if he was torping us. As you can see, the indicator just lit up to 2. That's probably going to be the cruisers aiming at me from longer range. I'm expecting the Smolensk to start shooting me. But now you see C-cap just flipped. That means the destroyer, or not flipped, but started getting capped by our team. That means the destroyer's not in there. So I know the torps are coming from around this angle. They have to be coming from right off my right side here now. So that's why I'm turning. I'm banking on the fact that the DD hasn't launched torps yet. I get a little lucky with the Kremlin, I'll admit it. And see, there pops the Holland up, exactly where I expect him. So that Holland probably thought I was locked in by that island on my right-hand side. He didn't expect me to turn out that sharply. So he probably launched all his torps for me to be broadside, sandwiched between his torps and the island on my right. Again, you know, the AP is pretty nice on this ship. And sure enough, there comes the torpedo indicators of the torps on the right that the Holland launched at me. So sometimes you got to be a little bit aware of where DDs could be, even if they haven't been spotted for a long time. The thought of how is that capture zone getting capped now that despite it being stalled for almost the whole game, right? Thoughts like that. Just being aware of little things like that can save your life sometimes. So we go around this island instead of in front of it, which is fine because, you know, we don't really want to push in that hard, but I do want to support my team in holding the B cap, because that's how we're going to win this game, is holding B and C and just kind of ticking the enemy team out of points as they try and push into us. Against destroyers, I do tend to shoot a lot of AP, since HE often just damages modules and doesn't deal maximum damage to the ship HP pool. So it's a lot of AP that I just shoot at things, because it's just consistent damage, even if you just overpen a destroyer, because that's all the damage you're going to get. Yeah. Smolensk's don't expect to deal damage to. Honestly, you should be considering switching to high explosive to shoot at a Smolensk, since your high explosive shells actually have enough pen to get through their citadel armor. So you'll be doing high explosive citadels to them. And, well, where armor piercing shells will overpen a citadel, high explosive shells can't overpen. So that's the nice thing about them. I've had a high explosive dev strike on a Smolensk before in this ship, which is kind of hilarious, since the high explosive only really deals like 8,500, I think. Here, unfortunately, this game is just designed in a poor way that's allowed to happen. I did go frame by frame through that. I think I aimed perfectly there. I didn't really see anything that I could have done differently, aside from load a different ammo choice, which in hindsight I probably could have and should have done, but yeah. Overpenning citadels, I feel, is just horrible game design. I really think it just allows people to too much survivability in a light cruiser with insane damage per minute. If you're getting something with such high DPM, you also need to have weaknesses too. And allowing ships to just get away with not angling and sailing full broadside to a battleship, I think just is bad game design. And it doesn't really teach people to play the game well. I'd say this is a pretty average game, maybe a little bit below average for me. Unfortunately, we got a little unlucky with our AP in the beginning of the game, but now that it's kind of balanced out, we've hit 3 citadels on some cruisers even, which is nice. And we even get a little chip damage there on the CV and a Confederate. So we didn't actually do too bad this game, despite it feeling, at least at the beginning, a little bit boring. Yeah, this ship is a good ship. I would definitely recommend you get it, simply because coal is so easy to come by. You just got to collect your daily containers. I would always recommend, unless you absolutely need signals or resources are the 2 containers you want to go for. And I always go for resources because I have enough of the camouflages and signal flags. So you're just getting coal every day. Every day you're just amassing enough coal to get another ship. Yeah, so we get a nice little dreadnought and fireproof even. So you can tank a bit in this ship, but it's more tanking from pretty far range, honestly, and dodging. Dodging is pretty key to this ship surviving. So here, this game, I want to focus on a couple things with this ship. This is more of the downsides of this ship, where, as I was mentioning earlier, you just sometimes can't push. In this game, just pay attention to how later in the game a battleship like an Ohio or a Kurfürst could have pushed into the middle of the map and perhaps done something to change the game. Probably not, though. We were pretty overwhelmed by the end of this one, but still, this ship dies quite easily. Here you're going to see the overmatch ability of these shells. You see how angled he is, and we just kind of ignore his armor, right? No bounces, just full pens and overpens. Pretty nice stuff. So that's why I'm often just shooting at cruisers in this thing. That's where you're going to get most of your AP damage. There is a salvo in this game where I do load HE against a bow-in Yamato, and I just want you to take note of the damage counter before the salvo lands and after the salvo lands. Just because he's not spotted when it does land, so we don't actually get a good view of what how much damage it actually does. As you can see, I'm kind of avoiding shooting the Grozavoy. I could, but it's a really low percentage shot since that ship's so maneuverable. It's pretty hard to hit hit little destroyers who want a gunboat at these ranges. Because as you can see, they can just stop or turn or anything, and it's so fast that we just miss everything, like there. But that's not to say you shouldn't shoot destroyers. It is good to pressure them, but sometimes it's just not worth it. Yeah, I think the only time I wouldn't shoot a destroyer is kind of like right now, where we're really not going to end up killing him, and there's nobody on my team really here to support me in trying to kill that guy, so my damage is better off being aimed at, say, maybe that Montana or one of the other ships that might pop up. As you can see, he's accelerating a little bit. We aim in front of him, and, well, they're just hard to hit, man. So you got to take massive guesses when trying to hit these destroyers at these ranges. And that's kind of why I think it's a little weird that they're given so much range. Like that Grozavoy is shooting at around 14 kilometers to hit this my teammate here in the Kurfürst, which is kind of crazy that he has that much range and he is that maneuverable. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like weird game design to me, but maybe I'm wrong when it comes to that. But it seems like a little bit too easy to play. But here I should probably have switched to HE. I'm just being stubborn. This often happens if you stop by my stream and see me playing a ship like this. I'll often just end up shooting armor piercing because I just really dislike high explosive that much. Because all their battleships are going to be bow into me, and I don't really have much for cruisers to shoot at, so you see I'm aiming for his superstructure with the armor piercing, and it'll do a little bit of damage, but nothing substantial. Nothing compared to high explosive and the fires that come from that. You see, nearly 8,000 damage isn't bad, but if you can, shoot HE in here. I do end up saying, okay, fine, I'll shoot HE, and then a Venezia pops up full broadside. And that's one of the issues. So that's why we take Expert Loader, which halves our reload time when switching from a fully loaded shell to the other one. And that helps a lot. Here, unfortunately, again, I don't know exactly what happens. I think he just turns out just enough that our shells all land short. A little disappointing for me in the moment, but I think I might have aimed that just a little bit too low now looking back on it. Or RNG is RNG, you know, it just happens with a battleship. But here is what I want you to notice in regards to high explosive. We have 34,000 damage. We're going to load some HE because all these battleships are bow into us. And this one salvo will show you the power of the high explosive. You're not going to necessarily see it land, but just keep an eye on that that damage counter. Okay, so we're at 37,000. And we got a full health Yamato here pushing in. As you can see, we're losing health pretty quickly. Spam some HE back at him, and well, 37,814 damage, all the way up to 51,300, and a triple fire. Yeah, and you see how much that ticks for. That's like almost 2,000 damage per tick, which is disgusting. And that's really where the high explosive spammy Thunder from max range is just so bad for the game. I don't like playing Thunder like this, and really if you're going to maximize the Thunder, this is what you would do. You would sit at range and just shoot HE over and over again, because while you may get salvos like that where you only hit 1 or 2 shells and don't do much damage, you're going to get those massive chunking salvos out there and get those fires. So I think getting a Witherer in this ship is really, really easy. And then the high explosive damage that comes with that is pretty massive. Here we're going to try and help our Shima, but our Shima's basically dead. He's shooting AP at a Bowie and Grozavoy. It's kind of questionable as to how much help he would have really been anyway, but we're going to try and save him. But yeah, as you can see from our map position, we may have the middle caps, but we're about to lose our flank here with the Shimakaze, because now there won't be anything I can do against the Groz, since he can either stay spotted or by shooting, or he can just smoke up and start to shoot us with high explosive from in his smoke and torp us, and we basically have to give this up, as well as their battleships pushing around the flank. And at the same time, their northern flank is starting to push into the middle as well. So we're getting pinched between two sides. And what happens when we start to get pinched? Well, we lose. We either lose or we have to make a play. You got to push somewhere. And my ship has, 64,000 health left. We have 3 heals. One's coming back up here in 30 seconds. So I'm feeling pretty good. Like, all right, I'm going to come around this corner. And I'm going to push up into the middle, maybe to try and deal with this Thunder and Puerto Rico coming in. Hopefully I can do that, and that way it'll at least free up one flank for us. That's at least what's going through my mind right now, because I'm used to playing ships with armor and the ability to tank a little bit. This is not one of those ships like a Kurfürst or Ohio or Montana even. There you can see you can sometimes get splash damage to a module even though you never hit them. And that's how you get cap resets without ever getting hit markers either. Just a little side note as to game design and how this is all functioning somehow. Shoot a little HE at the Thunder since he likely has damage controlled and we need to kill him. Yeah, there goes his damage control, although I didn't expect him to turn that hard. Now, just look at how fast I die here. To be fair, there are a lot of ships shooting at us, but we die fast, and I think it's a lot faster than other battleships would have died in this situation. As you can see, I'm a little wary of the ships on my right-hand side, but I'm thinking these islands should give me enough cover to deal with it. So, yeah, hopefully this has kind of showed a little bit of the strengths and weaknesses of this ship. The high explosive is obviously a massive strength. The armor piercing is a huge strength against cruisers, barring Smolensk, because that's just a special case. It's a good ship. It's well worth the coal. It's unique. It's a different experience than Conqueror is if you already have Conqueror. The ability to overmatch cruisers just makes it so much more interesting to play to me, since your armor piercing is just that much more viable. I think that it's a hard ship to play simply because you do lack the survivability of other battleships. So to get the most out of this ship is not to spam high explosive from the back of the map. The best way to get the most out of this ship is to ride that razor thin edge of being too close that you die and too far away that you're useless to your team. I might have been a little bit too far away in this game, but some games are just unwinnable because it's random battles and there's just 11 other people on your team that are sometimes not trying to help you win. So yeah, we can overmatch the Puerto Rico, but realistically we're not going to deal that much damage to him. This game is kind of crumbling as it's just me and this Des Moines left, and it's pretty much game over. But we're going to try it at the Smolensk because sometimes we can deal some massive damage, and you're starting to see my health bar go down, and you see how I'm wiggling back and forth. That's how I'm trying to dodge as many shells as I possibly can. Use the rudder shift, use the strengths that this ship does have in its hull to survive, but yeah, that Smolensk should die, but he just, I don't know, gets away with it. I don't know why I was facing so many Smolensks in this thing, but they're pretty annoying. But we have our good games and our bad games, so get a little bit below average damage, but sometimes that's just kind of the way it goes. And there we go. We're dead. So it took, it took maybe a little bit longer than I remembered, but it was only a couple salvos of Yamato AP and I was chunked down. But that is Thunder. Thanks for watching, guys. And I hope you have a good day.